Welcome to the Cups of Consciousness podcast with me, Aleya Dow, your host. And today, Winslow Vail is joining us. She is actually a practitioner of the Seven Cups of Consciousness. She lives in Ketchum, Idaho, and I have known Winslow since she was 16, and it is such a joy and an honor to have her on the show today. Winslow, welcome.
Thank you, Aleya. It's such an honor to be here.
So tell us a little bit about how it was that you started working with these concepts at the age of 16. Like, how old are you now?
So I'm 34 now. And as a teenager, I experienced so much anxiety and insecurity and self-doubt. And I was experiencing a lot of pain and challenges because of all that anxiety and insecurity, and really looking for my needs externally, looking to others, worrying what they were thinking, and trying to please everyone. And it was really crushing me. And so I was in a tough moment and had someone connect me to Aleya. And that's when I had my first session and started and was introduced to the Seven Cups of Consciousness modality and the tools.
And so for years, you've been using these concepts on yourself, and now you're working specifically with children and teens. Can you share with us just a little example of an energetic shift that kids have or teens have when you're working with them that really like empowers them and kind of moves them out of that challenging place into a more empowered place?
Yes, so we all have core needs, and some of those are safety and connection and validation and self-worth. And so when I'm working with children and teens, I often and usually focus on safety and self-worth first, cultivating those. And so regardless of if I'm working with a child or a teen, the first practice is really feeling into an inner sense of safety and also referencing safety in another dimension or another space that we can connect in with using our imagination. So, for example, using a higher dimension, it may be where I invite the child, the teen, to just take a deep breath in. So I can give a little example. It's just like imagination station. You imagine that you're pulling yourself within, and then using your imagination, you get to imagine a space, a place. It could be a magical land, a room that feels very safe, really calm. And then I invite the child, the teen, to think of who's with them. Who would they like in that space? Maybe their favorite animals, magical beings, a certain being or friend. And to think, and to then I walk them through all of their senses. So it's like, what do you see? And what do you feel there? How is the light moving? Are there any colors? What's the taste? Are there any tastes or smells there? And so they're with their imagination, they're painting and creating that space. And when they do that and they reference that space with their energy fields using their imagination, they then, most times, the children or the teens say, oh, like up there, when I think of being in that space or doing something in that space, I feel more calm, I feel relaxed, I feel happy. And so that is an energetic shift because they're referencing that sense of feeling safe or that sense of feeling calm or happy up there. And then they can ripple and reflect that to themselves here in this realm. So that's an example of using imagination station in the beginning. It's a gentle way of encouraging children to connect in with their energy fields and the higher dimensions. And they can also do that in their inner river of light.
And that just seems so easy, right? It's like all you have to do is imagine it, and then you're really energetically sensitive. So then you might actually feel empathically, because you're really empathic, you might feel their empathically their fields like expanding, relaxing. And I know that like I've seen you work with certain people, kids, teens, and then reflecting to them like, oh, can you feel that expansion? Or can you feel lighter? Or can you feel that anxiety releasing? And so you're really good at validating emotions because you've also been training with me and my husband, Doug. Doug teaches the validating of the emotions. Can you tell us a little bit about why it's so important to tie in that skill set that you have, not only of the energetic sensitivity, working with the energetic fields, but validating emotions? Why is validating emotions so important?
Yes, the validating emotions is so important, and I use it in every session, regardless of the age. And it's such a beautiful and incredible skill, tool set, because it's the validating emotions is when you're reflecting someone's emotions to them in a really gentle way. And that helps them increase their emotional competency, their emotional awareness, and to feel really safe, to feel heard, to feel deeply witnessed. And more than anything, it does create a really safe space.
So could you give us just a little example of like validating an emotion?
Yes. So, for example, it's called affect labeling. And again, I've been studying with Doug Knoll for 5 years. And it's when you use a you statement. So you are feeling, and then you fill in the emotion. So with children, it may be you're feeling really frustrated and really anxious about that situation if it's a challenging situation. And at school, for example, a lot of times kids come home, or when I'm working with them after school, there's been a situation where they feel left out. So it's like you really don't feel cared for, and you feel left out, and you feel really sad about that and frustrated that you're kind of on the outside. So you're just witnessing, validating their experience, which then helps them build awareness of how they're feeling, that, oh, yeah, they get to recognize, yeah, I do feel kind of sad, and I do feel frustrated and a little worried that I'm a little outside the group.
Can you share with us like a story or an example of when you might have used energetic protocol or validating emotions with a situation that was maybe really challenging with a child or a teen, and kind of what happened when you used that skill set with them?
Yeah, let me reflect on that. There's so many examples.
It's like every day.
No, every day.
Every day you have so many kids that you work with.
Yeah, last week I was working with a 10-year-old girl who she feels like she doesn't belong with her friends, with her family, and she feels very different than everyone. And she's deeply pained by it, and stressed and anxious, and in self-doubt and low self-worth. And so the validating emotions is so key, and what I always use in the beginning, because when someone's feeling really anxious and insecure and kind of emotionally volatile with what they're going through. So with her, I validated her emotions, saying, you feel really disconnected, you feel different, you feel sad that you're not part of the group. And after I validated her for a while, I could see that she calmed down, that she relaxed. Her energy fields weren't kind of moving around and freaking out. And then I encouraged her and coached her on, and what you really value is feeling connected and feeling happy and feeling appreciated and validated. And so then I it's like coaching her into recognizing what she really values and those qualities that she really values. You really love kindness and feeling really safe and feeling free and happy, whatever those were. And then the next step is to recognize that she has an inner river of light with those qualities, and she gets to amplify those qualities within, to feel them inside of her, because that's what she's truly after. Um, and again, our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. And
So
so,
but with her, right? So like if you've been working with her for a certain period of time, How long does it take to kind of see these shifts in the outer world with these tools that you're using with the kids and the teens?
So with the children and teens, it's challenging for parents because it's a slow and steady process. And so as a parent, you have to have a lot of patience because with this work, it's working on the roots, working on their foundation, working on their inner anchor, their inner world that's not always so obvious because we're so focused on the outer world, but it's like doing those inner shifts first, working on those roots first. And so it may be 3 months would be quick. It might be a year, 2 years before some of the really hardcore behaviors or thought forms or ways of beings shift.
And so
And
there does have to be patience, right? For the parents, because the parents might have an agenda of like, I want my child to not be anxious.
right,
And the child might not really have that agenda. They're just in the anxiety, don't even realize that maybe they're even working on the anxiety while they're working with you.
right. And it's like we have to be aware of it to shift it. And so at the beginning, it's like the affect labeling, the validating emotions more than anything, of course, also working on inner safety and linking our self-worth with a quality that flows within us. But the validating is so key because that is helping the children become aware of what they're experiencing, their emotions. And then only when they're aware of it can they begin to shift it and figure out different ways of being within them.
And
So
make a
it's
choice point, right? It's like, oh, I'm anxious. And then you've probably been working with them for however long and then sharing with them tools. And then they'll be like, "Wait, I don't have to be anxious. I could pull out a tool."
right. And we often, most of the time, are doing the opposite of that which we intend on mastering and creating within us, so that when we do have the awareness that, ooh, we're anxious, that's really the opposite of that which we in that of that which we value. And we probably value peace or kindness. And for example, a lot of the teens that I'm working with right now, they really value connection, they really value freedom, they really value feeling fulfilled, but they're in the opposite. They feel stuck, they feel frustrated, they feel disconnected, they feel like they don't have friends. It's just like they're looking into the outer world, and it's those qualities they're not feeling in their outer world. And so it's a process of whatever you value, recognizing that you have flowing within you, and then amplifying that more and more and more. And again, that is slow and steady because those are a lot of layers.
To be working on. And with the people that you work with, right, with the kids and the teens, are a lot of them like really sensitive, empathic, not empathic? I mean, they probably don't even maybe even know, but who are the kinds of kids that you typically end up working with?
A lot of the kids and teens they're very sensitive, and it's like they're magical in their own ways, and they're really empathic.
So
But they
that's really interesting that you just tied in like sensitivity with magical.
Yeah, because I do feel that this work, it's like all children have their inner sparkle, and we all have our inner sparkle, but the outer world, when we're not remembering the beauty and the magic that exists within us and in the other dimensions, we often forget. And so that inner sparkle gets dimmed, or we just forget about it, and people aren't witnessing it and recognizing it. And so it's this work, what I love about it is it's reminding children, and for them really just like how to maintain it as their inner anchor,
So they
but then
don't lose it as they get
don't lose
older.
it.
Right.
But then for teens, reminding them of their inner sparkle. That's their power, their protection, it supports them. It's really everything.
So their sensitivity is actually their greatest strength.
Mm, exactly.
Wow. Very cool. Beautiful.
Mm.
Um, Kind of coming back to you a little bit in your offerings and what you do. I'm just going to share a little story. We have Emmy, who is right now a 2-year-old puppy. She's a border collie, very high energy. And Winslow, a couple years ago, you started doing fairy mail. And I'm telepathic with my sweet little lovely puppy. And I said, Emmy, Winslow's doing fairy mail. Do you want to get letters from the fairies every week?" And she's like, "Of course I do." So in the wintertime, we sit by the fireplace and we read her fairy mail every week. And in the summer, we sit on the lawn and we read her fairy mail. And so Emmy, I think maybe might have even been like your first subscriber to fairy mail, but tell us a little bit about fairy mail and how the fairy mail kind of ties into what you do and how you work with the kids and how it can be supporting them in their process and even little fur children.
Yes, Emmy was my first fairy mail customer. And the fairy mail, they're weekly messages, and I tune into the fairies and children and nature and what could be a supportive message for the week. And I also reflect on when I was a sensitive child, what would I have loved to hear? What would have been supportive messages that would have supported my sensitive empathic self, and to remind myself of my inner river of light and these other dimensions and my gifts, wisdom and mastery. And so I actually have two little fairy, these are little examples, but they're different borders every week. And I send them via email and also mail, physical mail. Here's another one.
They're so beautiful. And
Thank
you
you.
do all the art.
Yeah, I do all the art and then listen to the whispers of the fairies. And they really tie into the 7 cups of consciousness, because they're gentle and empowering messages that encourage children, pets, magical adults, whoever wishes to remember that they have a light within them. Their divine line, their river waterfall of light, and to link their self-worth with the quality that flows within them. So there's little messages of, for example, it's like, imagine that you're standing in a waterfall of light, and it's your this is your kindness. It's filled with your kindness, for example. And again, walking through what do you see? What colors is your kindness today? Are there any smells? Are there any tastes? And to really feel into that quality that flows within them. And then when you feel that you're standing in your waterfall of kindness, for example, how do you then feel? And how does it feel to be snuggled up in there with the sparkles and the butterflies and the rainbows, or whatever, the spaceships, whatever it is the child created? So it's cultivating self-worth by linking your self-worth with the quality that flows within you, and also encouraging children, pets, recipients of fairy mail to remember their multidimensional selves, so that they have these magical realms that they're a part of, and that they can be here on earth, sitting on their couch, reading a book, but also at the same time in their fairyland or their magical space with kind dragons and knights and whatever they want. And that,
There's something so, like, as you're talking about this and just kind of sharing all of these examples, there's something so beautiful about you, Winslow, that it's got like the message in the fairy mail, and also like when you work with kids, there's such a gentleness and also like a curiosity that you hold. There's a lot of practitioners, healers, that sometimes get really directive and maybe even a little controlling, which then can create like a disempowerment. And when I watch you and just like talking, in the interview today, it's like that curiosity is so beautiful and so gentle. And it's such this warm, welcoming invitation to like, hey, explore this possibility. Hey,
mm,
ponder remembering this. And it's, I love it. It's gorgeous. And I think that's too why so many people resonate with fairy mail, is because, and also your work, because you have such a gentleness and of how you approach the work, your life, and others.
thank you. Yeah, I do really value that. And it's like just gentle encouragement of like, ooh, you have an amazing imagination and you're so creative. And like,
And you see their gifts, their wisdom.
yeah, yeah. And that's actually, that piece too is a part of fairy mail, and also coaching kids and teens, is like I have this bowl of rocks and stones and crystals, and telling and inviting the children, teens to think of, okay, what do you value? It's like, okay, you value the freedom and strength and power and joy and all these different things. And then like holding up, okay, your kindness or your power is a gem. And it's like you have this whole treasure box within you,
Cool.
and it's yours. And so it only works for you. It's your power, it's your protection, it's your superpower. And don't go giving those jewels and gems away, because that's definitely one of the core practices that I wish I had been told when I was a child, of
I
like,
know.
don't
I was
give
just about
them
to ask you, like,
away.
what's your favorite concept with these, favorite concept and practice with these 7 cups?
That may be one of the core ones, is like we all have our inner gifts, wisdom and mastery, and that's our magic, and that protects us and supports us, and it's incredible. And it's like, don't give those away. They don't work on anyone. I spent all my teens and my childhood giving them away to everyone, trying to please people, trying to make sure everyone was okay. And I was in pain and suffering because of that. And then when I started working with you when I was 16 and recognized, oh, wow, they're for me. And that's been a game changer of then retrieving, having more resources, feeling safer in the world, more calm, less insecure, more confident. It's really a game changer.
What was it like for you to find, and I'm sure our listeners would love to know, like, what is it that is your core quality that you like mastery, value so deeply, and what happened when you discovered that inside yourself?
I really value purity. And it's like the gentleness, the kindness, no judgment, clean and clear. And that that is a good question, because for me in the past, I didn't think purity was strong, or that it was powerful, or that it could support me. Because it's like, purity, you know, what's that? And it didn't initially seem strong when I first was introduced with you with these concepts at 17, 16, 18. And then I started recognizing that when I was valuing my purity, when I was holding it on me, within me, honoring it, that was in fact, it's like, yes, it's light and magical and joyful, but when you're really valuing it, holding it within you, recognizing it, then that is a certain degree of power and protection and strength that comes with that vibration, and that comes there. And that's also true for all qualities, whether that's strength or peace, whatever that is. But learning to value it, and and what I wanted to say with that was something that you coached me on, was because I had a hard time valuing it and thinking, I value it, but how's it
Is
really,
it enough, right? Is
is
it
it
really
enough?
strong? Is it really going to protect me?
And you said, what if there was no purity in the outer world? Like there was nothing was clean and clear, and nothing was gentle, kind. Like, what if that did not exist? Then imagine your life, the world, was like, wow, that
Have to
then,
find it inside.
yeah, it's like, okay, no, I really do value that. I would not want to be in a world where I couldn't feel that anywhere. And so I better value it within me, because that's where it truly exists. Um,
And then you draw it to you more and more and more. And
and
that
I,
purity also too has like that integrity. And so I think also too, when you're using that concept with kids of like helping them understand that they have an energy, a quality, a vibration that flows inside themselves. And when they start connecting with it, discovering it, right, they're discovering themselves. And then they start discovering that whatever it is that they've cultivated inside truly does support them and protect them. And with energetically sensitive people, like when you were a child, super energetically sensitive, really empathic, then when you started connecting in with that purity, then that started to create this incredible force field boundary around you. So it might be interesting to like kind of keep track of like all of those kids that you work with, of like when they connect in with this quality inside themselves, what happens to their boundaries? Are they able to kind of buffer the world and that high level of sensitivity in a more empowering way? And I love that, like, physical dimension is such an interesting reflection of energy. There's this little bird that was like flying behind you on the tree, like bringing in the nature spirits and weaving this beautiful grid of connection. Well, we have just a few minutes left, and is there anything that you really want to share with our listeners before we complete? And also, how people can find you, could do a sample session, could do coaching and sessions with you, could get fairy mail.
Yes, and just on that last piece that you're talking about, it's when you value a quality that flows within you and that creates a buffer, it also helps you become really clear on who you are as a beam of light, your baseline. And that was really key for me in my 20s, teens, when I was so empathic, but not realizing that I was empathic. And then the core practice was feeling into who am I? What are the qualities that flow within me? That when I'm by myself, I feel and I'm not getting messy with other things and distracted by. So it's like figuring out, becoming aware of your baseline. And then that helps you build awareness of when you do have a thought form or a behavior or a way of being or something that feels really stressful or an anxiety, you have more clarity on what's yours and what's not. And then there's a whole process with the 7 cups of consciousness for clearing empathic sensations that I use daily. And I started learning when I was 16. So for children and teens, if they right now, they're sensitive and they're probably empathic, but if they start anchoring in their inner qualities, like their kindness and their gentleness and their strength or their calm now, then it's like they've got such a good head start because they know their baseline. And then when they feel really anxious all of a sudden, when they walk in a room, that's an indicator that, ooh, that's probably not theirs and they have information. So it's really exciting to teach these tools to children, teens at a young age, because they can use these for the rest of their lives.
Which is huge. And you're training and teaching them how to have incredible discernment.
Mm-hmm. And then it's when they need to make decisions for school and friends and partners and jobs and whatever comes up in the outer world, they have the tools and they have the energetic tools. And then they also have the affect labeling, validating emotion tools, because they can then use those when they're with friends, for their family, and when they're also in challenging situations.
Which is huge because that builds connection, right? Like intimacy and connection when you know how to validate another person's emotions.
And then you're not scared or worried about how people will react to you as well, because you always know that you can simply validate emotions, hold a safe space, but you don't have to agree with the situation. And so these are just,
And you don't have to take on the energy.
and you don't have to take on the energy.
Huge. Well, how do people find you?
So you can find me. I'm a practitioner on aleyadao.com. And so you can go to aleyadao.com and the one-on-one sessions with practitioners, and I am right there. And then with fairy mail, you can go to winslowvail.com, and that's where I have my fairy mail site. So those are the places. And yes,
And could people like try a sample of fairy mail? Do you have an offering?
great. Yes, I do. So I'm doing gift a free month of digital fairy mail, so you can get a sense of the messages and just get a taste of if it resonates with you, if it resonates with the children or not. And
you could gift other people too, right? If you're like an aunt or an uncle and you have kids in your life and you want to give them a little gift, you could gift them for a month and then maybe they become a subscriber to Fairy Mail.
Yeah, you can gift anyone. And then also I'm offering free introductory coaching sessions on aleyadow.com. And those we just dive right in. It's not we do the imagination station, the energetic processes, protocols depending on the age, and depending on the child and what works for them. But we really dive right in with feeling the safety, developing self-confidence, and then whatever comes in depending on the child and the situation.
Well, and also too, I mean, the world is a pretty challenging place right now. And I think that a lot of the kids and teens are really challenged because they don't have a knowing of their energetic self, how to use their energy fields to shift their emotions, to shift their beliefs, to shift their behavior. And so it's pretty amazing and cool that you are holding the space for kids specifically to teach them about their energy fields, to acknowledge and validate their level of sensitivity and that it's not a bad thing, that they're not crazy. Yes, they're feeling other people, and then the tools of how to shift that. So, Winslow, thank you so much for providing this service to the people in need and for taking your time today to be on my podcast.
Thank you so much, Aleya. And yes, it is so exciting because the outer world we can't really count on. And we can't guarantee anything, especially as a parent. You can't guarantee anything for your children, your teens, but you can teach them how to find everything that they need within. It's like, which is an incredible gift. And then makes their lives more fulfilling and more connected and more calm and more magical in the ways that they wish. So that's why I love teaching children and teens these tools, because they're amazing and they're really simple and anyone can use them.
And so empowering. Winslow, thank you.
Thank you.